How long does Starmer really have left? In recent weeks, chatter has grown louder inside Westminster and beyond about the Prime Minister's future. Just a year after Labour's landslide victory, Starmer now faces a wave of unease, much of it coming from his own benches. Starmer's leadership has been punctuated by backbench rebellions, especially over a controversial welfare bill. He was forced into a humiliating climb down that left a £5 billion hole in the Treasury. The emotional sight of Chancellor Rachel Reeves in tears at PMQs only added to the sense of things unravelling. Meanwhile, the polls have collapsed, Labour support has dropped to record lows, and Starmer's own ratings aren't any better. In fact, survey after survey shows him stuck in deep negative territory. Yet even as the picture looks grim, there are voices within the party who argue that Labour is not doomed to remain in that position forever. They point out that the next general election is still some way off, and the public opinion can shift quickly if voters see real results. But here is the dividing line. While some think Labour can recover, many no longer believe that recovery is possible under Sir Keir Starmer himself. Among his critics, the argument is straightforward. Critics argue that Starmer has already lost touch with the public. They point to a widening gulf between him and the electorate, a sense that he simply cannot connect with the mood of the country. This divide, they say, is not abstract but measurable. It shows up month after month in the polling numbers, where Starmer's ratings remain stubbornly poor. Instead of improving or even stabilising after a year in office, his personal favourability has sunk into consistently negative territory, with more voters now holding an unfavourable view of him than a positive one. In their view, the longer Labour clings to him, the deeper the hole will become. The party still holds power, but it risks squandering its mandate if it allows the drift to continue. That's why whispers are growing louder. The sooner Labour acts, the better. Some MPs believe that replacing Starmer with a leader who can communicate hope, energy, and vision could reset the narrative before the election clock runs out. The question is no longer just about the party, it's about whether Starmer himself has become the obstacle. And it isn't just whispers in the corridors of Westminster anymore. The chatter surrounding Starmer's leadership is growing louder by the week, and the media has been quick to amplify it. Just look at the headlines from the last 2 months alone. The Independent asked bluntly, is Keir Starmer just one crisis away from a Labour coup? A striking question that catches a sense that his leadership feels fragile, even precarious. The Guardian described his handling of the welfare row with an equally dramatic headline: survival mode. Starmer throws tearful Chancellor to the wolves at PMQs. The framing suggests a leader scrambling to hold on, sacrificing allies in the process. Then there was Sky News, reporting that senior voices inside Labour are already discussing his departure. Sir Keir Starmer could be ousted as PM within months, 2 senior Labour MPs tell Sky News. That's not speculation from outsiders, that's his own MPs speaking on record. And finally, the Daily Express carried the blunt assessment from polling guru John Curtis. Keir Starmer blasted for worst start by new PM ever. Taken together, these headlines paint a clear picture. The mounting chatter is no longer background noise. It's becoming the main story. Starmer is now fighting not just political opponent, but the narrative that his time at the top is already running out. Changing the Prime Minister, however, comes with its own risks. While some in Labour believe replacing Starmer might save the party from decline, others warn that such a move could easily backfire. It would risk Labour looking as if it is repeating the same chaos that plagued the Conservatives for years. Voters still remember the revolving door at number 10 that made the UK look unstable in the eyes of the world. Between 2016 and 2022, Britain went through one of the most turbulent periods of political turnover in modern history. David Cameron resigned after the Brexit referendum in 2016, handing the reins to Theresa May. May's premiership collapsed under the weight of Brexit deadlock, ushering in Boris Johnson. Johnson, in turn, was forced out amid scandal, opening the door to Liz Truss. Her disastrous 49-day premiership, the shortest in British history, ended in economic turmoil, which brought in Rishi Sunak. In just 6 years, Britain had 5 prime ministers, If Labour were to oust Starmer so soon after winning a landslide election, many fear it would invite comparisons to that same Conservative chaos. The party could be accused of being just as divided, just as reckless, and just as incapable of providing steady leadership. For a government that promised stability, the optic of removing its leader only a year into power would be politically dangerous. At the same time, Starmer's sinking poll numbers are not just a personal problem. They threaten to drag the whole party down. For Labour, clinging to a leader with consistently negative ratings is simply unsustainable, especially when whispers of replacement are already growing louder. The mechanism for change is very much built into the Labour Party, and the growing chatter shows some MPs are already weighing that option. If enough Labour MPs lose confidence in Starmer, they can trigger a leadership challenge through the party's rules. In that case, Starmer would either face a contest against rival candidates or choose to step aside. Should a contest unfold, Labour members and affiliated supporters would be the ones to cast their votes and decide on the next leader. That's why the conversation in Westminster is already shifting from if Starmer goes to who would replace him. The chatter isn't just about removing Starmer, it's about the alternatives waiting in the wings. The first and most obvious name that surfaces is Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. Rayner has repeatedly said she doesn't want the job and publicly insists she is loyal to Starmer. But her name continues to circulate because she represents a different tone and style of leadership. Where Starmer is seen as cautious, Rayner is plain-spoken and populist. She appeals to Labour's working class base and has ability to connect in a way that Starmer often struggles to. Some in the party believe that if Labour wants to re-energise its support, Rayner would be the natural figure to rally around. Another rising MP in the conversation is Wes Streeting, the current Health Secretary. Streeting is younger, energetic, and seen as having the political sharpness to take on opponents head-on. He has cultivated a reputation as one of the party's most media-savvy figures, and his supporters argue that he could reset the government's narrative with bold reforms and clearer communication. However, his critics warn he might lack the experience needed to lead the entire party, and his leadership could deepen divides between the left and right wings of Labour. Then there's Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, often referred to as the King of the North. Burnham is not currently in Westminster, but his popularity in local politics and his profile as regional leader makes him an attractive outsider. For many, he represents a voice that resonates beyond London, a politician who has shown he can win and keep public trust in one of England's largest metropolitan areas. If the party were to look outside the current cabinet, Burnham would immediately be considered a serious contender. For now, Starmer remains in charge, but the speculation continues to grow and the pressure points are clear. If Labour MPs continue to see the party slide in the polls, if major crises keep exposing weaknesses in leadership, or if the public perception of Starmer hardens further, the calls for change will only grow louder. At that point, Labour will face a defining choice: stick with the leader who brought them to victory but now struggles to inspire, or risk the chaos of removing him in hopes of finding someone stronger. Either way, the stakes could not be higher. For Labour, it is not just about holding power, it's about proving that the party can govern with stability, confidence and vision. The decision on Starmer's future may well determine whether Labour's time in government is remembered as a fleeting stumble or as the beginning of a lasting era. And that leaves us with the question: do you think Sir Keir Starmer will survive long enough to fight the next general election as Prime Minister? Or will Labour decide to roll the dice on someone new? The chatter is mounting, the pressure is growing, and Westminster is watching closely. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you never miss our latest updates.